Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show, Get to Know Your Neighbor. I'm your host, Cameron Geesaman with Geesaman Homes. Our goal with every show is to bring awareness of awesome neighbors and businesses of Fishers, Indiana, and to share their stories with you. Don't forget to click the like button and post an emoji or comment below. And if you have a friend or a business that we could showcase, please feel free to share their content or their details so that I can reach out to them. Watching and playing sports have always been kind of a big part of our family, having three boys, as you can imagine. And it usually is the talk at the dinner table with all three of them. Two of them actually love basketball. Our twins really enjoy it. And Adam and I have been thankful for a great local program called Hickory Hoops. This is why we were excited tonight to be interviewing Todd Zimmerman, who is the co-founder of Hickory Hoops, a local basketball club that has been growing by leaps and bounds. That was my joke. It's not really funny. They've partnered with IU basketball player Colin Hartman to help with training and coaching the young players. Todd also happens to be part of the Fishers Falcons, which is a baseball program, and is also the Fishers City Council president. He and his wife, Nikki, have three sons and currently live in Fishers, and I'm excited to have this opportunity finally to chat with him. He actually was supposed to be scheduled a couple weeks ago, and I know we're a little early tonight, but I'm really excited about interviewing Todd. So please welcome Todd Zimmerman.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Doing good. Just enjoying this beautiful weather.
Oh my gosh. See, these are the times that I wish our studio was outside.
Yes. I've had to do a lot of work remotely during this COVID time, and I'm using the deck a lot. So
yeah,
thank the Lord that it has been nice out because I don't know what we would do if it was rainy or cold or whatever.
Oh my God. Well, those are the times when I'm glad that I have an indoor studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swap. It is. It's been gorgeous. And I keep telling everybody 70-degree weather is kind of my favorite because it's not too hot, but not too cold.
Right.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Temp. So take advantage. Anyways, we'll jump in. We always ask our guests a Fisher's question, and you probably have a bunch of answers for this, but what has been your fondest memory? I should probably say of living or being a part of the council of Fishers. Like, what's been your favorite memory?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say there's several things. First of all, I moved here back in 1989. I was 16 years old. Moved from Atlanta, Georgia, and it was 70 degrees there, and it was negative 20 wind chill factor. It was the middle of my sophomore year in February of '89, and I had fond memories even of Fishers back then. So I kind of back then and now, and it was where I lived in Charleston Crossing, which was a brand new neighborhood at the time. Now it's across from Sunblessed a little bit near downtown Fishers. And so I was there, and I would walk to work. My first job here was in McDonald's. It used to be up along 116th Street, set up there. Now they demoed that and rebuilt it since that time. But I'd walk down the street, and it was just a real small town. I think roughly 6,000 residents at the time, if I'm correct. And anyways, I got on the bus then, went to HSE for that semester. I had just moved here, and it was the middle of my sophomore year. So that was pretty miserable because I didn't know anybody. Right. And in the middle of a school year, I get on a bus, and they take me out into the school. And from 69 to Oleo, there were just farmland. And so I was like, where did I go? Where have I moved to? What am I doing here? But it's been exciting to see. One of the reasons I ran for the council years and years ago was, I wanted to see and be part of the growth, part of a little bit of the change, but at the same time, trying to keep some areas that that have that nostalgia to it. So it's been a tough mix because we've become very popular and people want to move here, and with that comes a lot of growth, and sometimes that makes people happy, sometimes that doesn't. But it's part of the evolution that we're going through right now. But it's just been exciting to go from 6,000 residents to 90 some thousand. We're the fifth largest city in the state of Indiana. So that's probably been my biggest. But my best memory is I met my wife in church in Fishers. So
What
that is
church?
so we is Fishers. It was a little church plant that I was doing that no longer exists. I was helping out with churches, and I was a youth pastor, and so we had started a little one long time ago, and it didn't last real long. But I met her there. It was like the first service, second service, something like that, and
Aw.
it's all history from there. Yeah.
Is she an HSE grad as well?
No, so she went. So I went for one semester to HSE and then went to a private school
Oh,
for 2 years. It was called Cornerstone Christian Academy, and then I went to Anderson University. She went to Carmel, and then went to IU. So yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna get super controversial real quick.
Oh gosh. All right.
Okay, wait for it. Even though
Uh-huh.
I told you I wasn't gonna go very controversial. How did you get your wife, who is a Carmel resident, to move to Fishers?
Well, she actually at that time when I met her lived in Indy. She lived in an apartment in Indy and was working for Parisian, so it wasn't too difficult.
Was it too hard?
Yeah, it wasn't too hard. So yeah,
Because I get this all the time with clients of asking, like, Fishers, Carmel, like, what's the difference, you know? And, you know, I grew up in Fishers for the most part. I was here from sixth grade on. So I say I grew up here. Um, and so I left, right? Because I went to Ball State, but then I still stayed in Fishers. What would you say? And I know this wasn't one of the questions, but what would you say is why you wanted to stay in Fishers? Because you lived in Charleston Crossing. Like, what made you want to stay here?
so yeah, so I went to Anderson, and so my mom had stayed in Charleston while I was Charleston Crossing while I was in college, and then just I don't know what it was necessarily because really back then there was nothing wrong with Fishers. There just wasn't a lot to do,
It
and
wasn't.
even Indianapolis there wasn't a lot to do. So you'd go downtown Indy at that time, and if it was past 5 6 p.m., there wasn't much to do. So you'd go to Castleton Mall to hang out.
Yes.
Castleton Mall was so. I mean, I was used to a bigger mall in the Atlanta area, and actually, where I moved from, I lived near Gwinnett Mall, and most people that are watching this wouldn't know what that is, but there was a place called Gwinnett Place Mall in Gwinnett, Georgia, which is a suburb kind of similar to Carmel, Fishers, just that north side feel. Well, they filmed Stranger Things. That those mall scenes are filmed at
Oh
that
no.
mall where I used to go run around at before I moved up here because half of that mall is pretty much abandoned now down there up there, and then it's So that's anyways
Well,
the thing. Yeah, good.
it's funny that you say that because here's the thing. What started this show is I called. Do you know who Ryan Allward is?
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yep.
I say that. I think everybody knows him, but I feel like I shouldn't say that because then that's assuming.
That's
Uh,
okay.
and I called him. I had this idea of doing this video of like, you're from Fishers if, right? Like, and
Right.
to try to bring back some memories of Fishers. How many things can you think of that like have happened in Fishers that you can say that you're from
Well,
Fishers if?
yeah. So there's a lot. I mean,
No.
Fishers, there wasn't a lot. Yeah, just wasn't a lot back then, and so that's why I think the change, while difficult in some people's minds, the majority are really excited about it because this is a place where people are going to be able to create memories for the future, and there's going to be I just can't wait to see some of the things even coming down the pipe to. The trail, nickel plate trail and stuff. I think there's going to be memories created in that back then, nothing, once again, nothing against what it was, because when you lived here you loved it, right? I mean, you love where you're from and you want to love where you're from. But what I love about Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, what's happening in the county is we really help each other. It's sometimes we're a little competitive and we're like, yeah, Carmel or Fishers or whatever, but reality, the safest places to live, always ranked high in the nation. um, Most prosperous. I mean, we've been named best city. They were named best city or second, I think, one or two as well. Westfield, Noblesville. I mean, that's what I think is wonderful about this, and I want to make sure we continue that focus and keep our eyes on that we really live in a great place, regardless of in 2020. I think we've had a rough time just with COVID, dealing with that. which has then created some division, political divisions, different stuff. That's kind of, I think people are just so tense, and
Mm,
people are suffering maybe job losses or suffering setbacks in their income. The students, whether they're going to school or not going to school, there's just a whole lot of things that are happening, and we're better than that as Fishers and Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville. We are great people throughout. I don't care what political background or anything, and I think it's imperative that we find those common themes so that we can continue to move forward and make memories, great memories for our families, and not divisions.
I agree. I think that that's again one of the reasons I did the show is because I felt like there's so much that is good in Fishers, and sometimes we forget about those things.
Right.
And just to be kind, right? No matter where it's at, what you're doing, just be kind to people. And I find that we have a lot of that in Fishers, even though there has been some separation. I know that we'll get back. We'll have that kindness.
And I think more people are that way than the division.
I agree.
I think social media drives a human behavior that isn't normal,
It doesn't help.
and there's things that people wouldn't say to your face that they'll say in
Oh
those
no.
forms. And so I would tell people, try to get off of social media as feeding relationship connections, so to
Yeah.
speak, and get with people and face to face as much as you can in this,
Yeah.
because it's not healthy, and it's not been healthy for people.
Little did your wife, when meeting you at a small church, or you sitting as a new sophomore in Fishers, Indiana, think that you are going to be a city council president or running multiple sports programs.
Yeah. Well, I clarify that. So I was president, I was vice president, president, and then we're rotating some. So Cecilia, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's not a huge deal. It's just whoever runs the meeting. It's good. So Cecilia Coble is the president right now. But yes,
So
it's great to be on the council.
when did that change over?
This past year. So we do that. So we're trying to do that yearly because we want to get people different exposure to leading the meeting and stuff. So yeah, but it's the same. We all have the same role. It's
Okay.
there's 9 people on the council. There's a mayor, and then there's a city judge. So that's the judicial, legislative, executive branches of the government.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll get it right at
Good.
some point. I am definitely delving into politics more. We're not going to talk about that, but I'm delving more in. I feel like I want to have a voice, so to speak. So
Uh-huh.
that's interesting. Whereas I'm like usually the one that's like, peace out. Nope. Don't talk to you about it. So it's been interesting.
Yeah.
You kind of answered our second question. So I'm going to go on to our next one, which has been, what has been your experiences? And we're going to kind of delve into the sports side now. What has been your experience with the sports programs in Fishers? And I'm going to preface that to prior to you wanting to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's extraordinary. So there's a program in Fishers, nonprofit called Mudsock.
Which used to be sports,
I've been
right?
part. So I was part of, yeah. So it's sports previously, and now
Okay.
it's called Mudsock. And so Mudsock, if people don't know, that is a former name of Fishers back in the day.
Right.
So if you don't know what that is, that's so they took that that kind of heritage and wanted to bring that forward. So
Which
it is.
Mudsock, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd. Mudsock, or at least what I remember, whenever I heard, the Mudsock game, that was mostly that's the Fishers versus HSC games.
Yeah, they would use that as a Fishers HSC game, but then so the nonprofit sports, so sports that I'm sure you're familiar with the rec programs from baseball, basketball, soccer. There was all this stuff they have. Football, everything. Well, they were called sports for a long, long time,
Right.
and then did a branding transition to Mudsock, and so that's been really recent. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think it's been the last year and a half or so, 2 years, but they've been Mudsock. But yeah, so anyways, my experience with that was tremendous. So it is the best relationships we've ever built as a family in the community are 2 places. One was church, and the second was sports leagues. So got involved with coaching like t-ball, baseball, or whatever it was, and all the way back until, then basketball, and then it kind of just went baseball and basketball. There were times where I was coaching, 3 teams at once of baseball, two the rec, one of the travel with Express. They've got a travel program called Express. So that's a community-based travel program with really great people in it. And so my experience, and I've not been, what's real weird is I played soccer for 12 years growing up. None of my kids were interested in soccer for some reason. I love football. None of my kids were interested in football, but they have great programs for all that. And I really recommend people. I mean, I've got this, what I can talk about Hickory and the Falcons a little bit later, but they have a great program, and I really encourage people, keep your kids active in some sport, some way, even if they're not great at it. It doesn't matter. It's so important to their mental health. It's so important to them to have something. And even now, right now, in the midst of everything going on, I believe it's paramount. It's paramount because they've been stuck. Nobody's at fault for this. I'm not trying to blame people, but they've been stuck behind computers. They've been stuck, at home, and it's wearing on them. And so it's a great program. So you look, I can't remember you probably find the website, but it's Mudsock, and they have a lot of ways to register there.
They do. I know that there's different programs, and so that's been good, but it is nice to see that there's not just one, because I have to admit, that was part of our concern.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on kind of the changes you've seen with kids sports over the years? Because you've been here, because I was even talking to a friend the other day, and Allison Stroll, who usually jumps on too, I don't know if she's on tonight, but she and I remember a time where there wasn't rec sports. Like, you played the school sports.
Yeah.
I don't really think that there were rec sports. So I want to pick your brain now, because when did you see that transition? Because you were before me. And so, when did that transition, and how is it affected now today, or what changes?
Yeah. So I can't speak entirely to the whole history of rec in Fishers. I mean, I do remember I started getting involved because when I moved here when I was 16, so I was out of that age group.
Oh, I guess that's true, right.
But previous to that, I played travel soccer in Atlanta, and then when I was born, Cincinnati. So I played.
Did they have travel soccer when you moved here?
I don't know about here. I just know that they had it in other places. So I played it until I moved here. So I was probably.
I don't think it was here because I grew up so I was born in California.
Yeah.
And when we moved here, they didn't have soccer programs. Like in California, you played when you were 5. Mm. Okay, Allison had a comment. She is on. I always love her comments because she can help a sister out. We had rec
until high school. Okay. High school. Yeah. I'm sure there's so there's probably been rec as far as, I mean, once again, I'm 48 years old. I moved here in 89. I don't know what was going on before then, but I'm assuming there was some, just at that time, the Fishers was very small. So I don't know how much they had going on there, but yeah. Yeah.
So they had rec, maybe not called sports, maybe something different.
Yeah, I'm sure it was something different. Yeah.
So they had rec. So then because sports is really all I had really even known about, but then people started mentioning, especially for our boys, Hickory Hoops and stuff like that. What made you then want to start a new basketball and or baseball program?
So there's all sorts of programs out there. I mean, there's everything at all levels. A lot of it's driven honestly, by parents that just want to coach their kids further. I mean, I think a lot of that gets driven by that. You just kind of want to get out there and keep coaching and keep coaching and keep coaching. Hickory really started we were really ingrained in the rec program, a tremendous basketball rec program, lived and breathed it. There was a time, I think 2 years ago, where I was the commissioner for second grade. I had no second graders, at that time, but I went and reffed like all their a lot of their games for the Eastern Conference part, but I was commissioner over it. and loved it. I mean, absolutely loved. It was probably one of the best rec seasons I ever saw. None of my kids were even in that at that time. Just it was a lot of fun. So the rec program is really good, and the but what happens is it runs from they draft right around this time. I mean, usually it'd be about October, late October, early November, and the season will go until March for basketball.
Okay.
Because it's particularly a winter sport, because people are involved in baseball and soccer and a lot of other things during spring and summer. So they would have that. Well, our kids were like, it was sixth grade, and a friend of mine and I, were coaching a couple different rec teams. We were just like, our kids came to us, just like, we just want to keep playing basketball. So it was just one team. We started sixth grade. We called it. One of our friends too was sitting there. We were at gym one day and trying to figure out, what do we call this team? What do we? He and this guy said Hickory. What about Hickory? I was like, that's pretty cool. So that's kind of how, honestly, it wasn't really well thought out. It just kind of popped into people's minds. And so the kids that wanted to keep playing, we had a team of I think we had 11 sixth graders at that time that wanted to keep playing. You normally wouldn't want 11 on a team on basketball, but we just went ahead and did it and had fun. Went and entered a C division at Best Choice Fieldhouse, and ended up, I think we won one of those during that time, one of the championships for the C division. And it was really cool. And what's exciting about that is, since then I've coached a lot of those kids. Now they're in high school, and one of the probably most emotional times I've had several emotional times with sports, but in good way, is this young man that I drafted him in third grade, so he's my middle son's age. So at third grade rec back years ago, and we were in the Western Conference, which was the lower end of the rec program, and we were the worst team in the Western Conference. So if that you can imagine that in your mind. Okay, we were the worst, and we couldn't score. The only game we won, I think, is because the other team had the flu and they didn't show up. I think that was, or maybe a couple of them showed up. And I don't know. It was not a successful season in that, but I had several kids on there that I didn't even know. I didn't know their families. It was like in the draft, I went in completely blind. I had no idea who these people were. And anyways, through that, there's one young man that I've coached from third grade to now even ninth grade. But when he made the eighth grade Fishers junior high team, he called me and said, "Coach, I made it." And I burst out in tears. It was like my own son making it. I know he worked so hard to do this, and to see him come from third grade, where I don't think he scored a basket the entire season, he could barely dribble the basketball, to making eighth grade, which is not easy in this community to make your school teams.
Even at the eighth grade level?
I'm sorry?
Even at the eighth grade level?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, it's tough. You got to really, grind it out to get there. But that was why that started, and the whole purpose of it really was really to add a supplement and have kids be able to play year round if they wanted to. So even that first year or two, we, during when rec would start, we would tell all of our families, "Hey, priority rec. And then if you want to come play additional games, you come play additional games with Hickory. We'll play at the field house." So it was really good. And word of mouth just grew. So we just started getting people, like we had one team, and then we'd have a parent call, say, "Hey, I want my kid to be on team." Well, we didn't have enough room, so we'd have to get. So Jason and I would split up, and then one of us coach one team, one coach the other, just so because more of their friends wanted to start playing, and that's kind of how it went. So it's been really cool, and honestly, it's almost a mirror image with the Falcons. That the Falcons is just, I love coaching. I really enjoy it, and it's when you do travel, you can kind of control your schedule. Mm-hmm. And I had two kids in it, so you can kind of control at the time. So you can kind of control the schedules, because travel is really difficult when you're going city to city in the state. And mainly we would stay in the state with those. And so creating that to be able to control schedules, to be able to have kids stay together on teams that wanted to stay together. Families really draw bonds, and there were times where you'd get close to somebody and then they have to move to another team or whatever, and it's like, what, we kind of wanted to have that where we're staying together, because it's hard to find, and you don't want to lose those relationships, because then you just don't see each other all summer if you're on different teams, regardless of whether they're top teams, middle teams, bottom teams, doesn't matter. So that's we wanted kids to be able to stay together, and so that's what we did.
So it sounds almost like supplemental to rec as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially the basketball piece, because it was like kids wanted to play year round. They just wanted to they wanted to, or have the opportunity, maybe take a session off, because it's, as you know, it's every 8 weeks or so, but they wanted to have that time together where they had an opportunity to play if they wanted to.
My son came to us the other day. He's in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
He has played one season at YMCA.
Okay.
How many years ago? This was, 8 years ago, something.
Right.
He says to us the other day, "Mom, Dad, I want to try out for basketball."
Go for it.
That's what I said. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
because he believes he plays basketball outside with his brothers, and he beats his brothers all the time. So he was like, "I'm a basketball player." I'm like, all right, we're just gonna go for that. Here's what my basketball coach did to me. I'm tall, I'm 5'11". We've met, so you know how tall I am.
Yeah.
My basketball coach was like, "You made the team. Congratulations. Now I just have one thing that I need you to do. You run and you stand and you hold your hands up and you just block balls. I don't want you dribbling. I don't want you shooting. I don't want you, no picks. I just need you to stand right there in that box."
Yeah.
So my kids, when they're like, "Mom, you play basketball?" I'm like, "I didn't play basketball. I was a tall person because there were only 300 kids in the senior class. And so they needed a tall girl to
like, come on, stay here. Let's stand right here, grab the ball, and immediately throw it to your teammate. Yeah.
Do not hold it. Do not dribble. She used to tell me all the time, "Don't dribble." And I was like, "Ooh, okay." Oh.
So I say that today to our players that are even good dribblers: quit dribbling the basketball so much, because it's just, it's a coaching thing, and it's just,
Well, she also said, because when you're tall, the ball has a lot further to go up and down, and a little short person can come and just swoop it right out of your hands.
Right.
And it seemed to happen with me a lot.
You make the person that's 5'3" just as tall as you when you bring the ball down there. So
yes, yeah. So that was one of the things. Well, I really have liked the program with our kids. They took a little bit of a break from it because they just wanted to do other things, which is fine. We try not to be a 8. That's excessive, but a multi-sport family. We like to have family time. How do you balance that? Because here's the thing, what you just said a little while ago of you love coaching the sports. How do you step away? Because you're coaching, you're within the city, you have a job, you're a husband. Like, where do you find time?
Nights. And it'll slow down a little bit for me, because I just finished coaching a 14U baseball that I've coached these kids for several years, and that's the last time for me in terms of them. So that was a rough one, but it's hard to find time. But here's the deal for me: if I for somebody that isn't interested in doing this stuff, they find downtime, sitting relaxing, reading a good book, whatever. For me, downtime, and this sounds really weird, but it's true, is being on a basketball court and coaching, or being on a baseball diamond, or just because for me it's stepping out of the day-to-day realities and just being able to be there to encourage, coach, and just have fun. So it keeps me young, actually, and I want to do it as long as I can. because I enjoy it. Recharges me versus if I sat. And there's nothing against anybody that does this, but if I sat around and read a book, for me, that's not recharging.
Yeah.
I'll fall asleep. So that's just me.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
What was your favorite age to coach?
Man.
I know that's not a question that I.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
been progressive because I've just basically kind of coached along how my kids have aged, right? So, but it's fun with the younger kids to see them when the light bulb goes off, and to see them do something they've never been able to do before. But the most rewarding's probably been lately with the older guys because they have a goal of making their school teams,
Yeah,
and this
which is hard.
group of guys for the Falcons that just finished, several of them have a really good shot now that play at HSE and Fishers, and the couple years ago probably wouldn't have had, they weren't on that path.
Right.
And so it's just really cool to see that, to watch them succeed, and forever memories, and I love it.
For that person sitting there, that parent that hasn't coached before or is worried about coaching, either because they don't know the sport, because it sounds like if you played soccer, you didn't specifically maybe know basketball or
Yeah.
baseball, or that parent that's like, I'm afraid I'll say the wrong thing or irritate the parents or whatever. What advice can you give for that parent that maybe could be interested at some point?
Volunteer, especially at Mudsock, volunteer to coach a team. They Every year it was like pulling teeth to get certain people to coach, and you'd always have your eager ones, and then you'd have a lot of that you're just begging people to coach. And if you don't get enough coaches, then the kids either can't play, or you get on teams where there's so many kids that it's hard for them to get playing time. It's hard for them. It's just wreck, right? It's You don't need to know the game itself to start learning it. You can get in, I mean, get on YouTube and study basic things for kids sports, whatever the sport is. If they're asking for volunteers, they mean it. And if you give your time, the kids will remember you more by the time you give than what happens on the scoreboard. I can promise you that. They will remember your heart behind it. They'll remember your passion for it and your care for them, much more than any kind of trophy, because those things come and go. It's exciting to do that. I mean, as a competitor,
Right.
most of us are. You want to win,
Want to win.
but if you're just learning this thing, just get in there and enjoy it. And especially if you have real young kids right now, get in now and volunteer to coach. And then you'll see, especially when they do the draft each year, you'll see the same names, and you'll recognize the families that you really got connected with, and you start kind of knowing who to draft, who you want on your teams. I mean, it's really good, but get involved. It's a hard. I'll tell you, you will deal with parents that are idiots. I'm sorry to say that, but they're not. But 99% of them aren't, right? But you will deal with somebody that you just don't like. But you will remember. And Allison, I just saw her.
Yeah,
Remember, yeah, you will remember your coaches for the rest of your life.
it's true. I
And
didn't think about it
yes,
that way.
yes, you will remember them for the rest of your life, one way or another. I mean,
Yeah.
and kids, what I hear, I don't know if this is actual facts, but I hear about 11 to 12 years old they quit, and they generally quit sports because of an adult.
Coach.
A coach just for whatever reason, or something. But you remember those people, and I remember. So Allison's on there. I remember Benji, my youngest. One of his best memories is Mike, her husband, was coaching Express, and asked Benji was playing I was coaching 8U Blue, which is was the lowest at that time for us, C baseball, and they were on the red team. Well, they had a spot for a tournament or something. Somebody was sick or gone on vacation, and he asked Benji to come play. And so Benji went and played one of the games of the tournament, not, or maybe two. Allison might even remember that. I don't know, but didn't play a lot in it, right? Well, then we go home, kind of. That was it. And I think they had their full roster then for the next day for the final stuff. They won the tournament, and he came over to our house and gave Benji this trophy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, for that, and it was just those are things that you're going to remember he's going to remember forever. He's that's the type of stuff you remember forever, and that's why I encourage people, get involved, coach, put up with the heartache, put up with the stuff sometimes that you don't want to put up with,
Yep.
and in the end, those kids will still remember you.
We always have told our kids, and I think Adam's parents and even my parents were always like, we want you involved in something.
Right.
I don't, for me, it doesn't have to be sports. If you want to be into music, if you want to be, on Glee Club or whatever, I want you involved in something. I want you around other kids. I want you interacting with adults. I want, like, I'm not a big fan, maybe Adam and I agree that we're not a big fan of doing like 3 sports per season.
Yeah.
But that's for whoever wants to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I think it just depends on what you can handle also. You know what I mean? And so we've always said, you have to be involved in something. You can't just sit on your butts.
Yeah.
Mind you, the twins have been sitting on their butt. We're going to have to
have a little chat with them. Come on, guys.
That into gear. It hasn't helped with what kind of all happened in the world. For all of those that are interested in Hickory Hoops, what kind of sets Hickory Hoops and the Fishers Falcons apart from other programs? Because I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, because like for basketball, you have Hickory Hoops, but then you've also got Mud Sock. But then what are the other ones? You've got.
Oh, there's all sorts. There's Indiana Elite. I could go on and on. There's Indy Hoops, which Matt Webster runs. He is a tremendous guy, and they have. I love coaching against them now because they're good people, and it's going to be good games. Now we may blow each other out or something, or we have tight games but it's not some of the others that you run into that make it more than what it is.
Right.
So Indy Hoops has a great program. I mean, they're fantastic with kids, and they've got some extra training and stuff as well. But there's all sorts. I mean, even at Finch Creek, there's several things there. So there's a lot out there. So my biggest thing is, I think the driver for families, in my opinion, should be, how can you build the best relationships and best situation for your particular child and what they need and what would be best, for them. And I'm always adamant about, if what we're doing is not a fit, I'm going to help them find what that fit is, because it's not about anything other than them finding the best spot. And families, really, especially baseball, and Allison will definitely agree with this on here. With baseball, you spend so much time together. It's basketball. Basketball's different. You go in a gym and you're gone an hour or so. Maybe you stay there for a couple games, but you're not. But with baseball, you're like a pack traveling around everywhere, and relationships are vital. And so that's something where, somebody that's been involved in, and I know Allison did softball as well, high level, but when you're around people for a long time, you want to make sure that's a good fit always, all different directions. So it's healthy, so you enjoy it. And because when you don't enjoy it, that's not fun. It's not fun for anybody. And so I would say, if you're picking a basketball or whatever, pick something that, well, I'd love for you to come to Hickory. That's not the end all. I mean, that there are great people and great programs throughout. I honestly would push people more toward, if they're starting, I would push them more toward rec, to see what their kids love doing, right? Get involved, because the rec season is compact to 10 games. It's a particular time of year where other sports aren't going on. See what they like. Then they have a travel program within that as well. HSE and Fishers travel program, I think 3rd through 6th grade. You guys correct me that are watching if I'm wrong. third through sixth grade, and
Yeah.
then they cut that off for junior high and high school. But
Yeah, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Yes, that's
yeah,
correct.
yeah, okay, yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities. So I would say if you're a first time ball player, whether it's baseball, basketball, or whatever, I can't speak to the other sports around here, but get in the rec program, see what that's about, see what your kid loves it. If they love it, then maybe if they want to develop higher level skills, then find a travel program, whether it's us or there's Express, there's for baseball, there's all once again all sorts of Nitro, Orange, all sorts of programs out there that they can find. I say once again though, go for relationships, go for where your kid feels like they fit, and I think that'll be the healthiest thing for everybody.
I do agree with that. Baseball, this is really bad. I grew up, I never really liked baseball. There was a kid in baseball that I liked, but not the sport baseball.
Yeah, okay.
That's how it works, really, right? Usually.
Yeah.
Anyways, I never really liked baseball. And so our neighbor is Chris Hebert. If you know Chris Hebert, he's the assistant coach for the Fishers varsity baseball team. I should probably finish that thought. And so he's huge baseball. That's what's on their TV all the time. And we hang out with them a lot. And so he got my kids wanting to play baseball. So we tried baseball. And my kids loved it for a period of time. But I do agree that they had gotten some coaches that they didn't like or teams that they didn't like. And they kind of just got burnt out on it. And we're kind of like, whatever. But I learned in that process, it wasn't even, I'm not sure I still like the sport, but I loved the people. Because it's a group and you got really close and we're still friends with some of those parents because the stands for baseball is really close. In basketball, you have the whole half of the court, you can really easily, for the most part, social distance on a basketball, like watching basketball. Baseball, it's a little bit harder because, your stands are a little bit closer. So that is one of the things that I absolutely did love about baseball. So I do agree with you on the make sure that you're connected or that you are within that group of people that you like to be around, What challenges, have you seen or that you faced with starting and growing each program?
Biggest challenges are balancing the balancing where some people what expectations are versus what reality is, whether it's for their kid or for the team or for the program, and understanding that, and then it's just day to day, when you're managing relationships, you're managing personalities, those kind of stuff, and it's not been really that bad. I mean, it's you have occasional thing here and there, but it's not been terrible. I like it. I think baseball, you got to with baseball because it gets so hot outside. People get ultra competitive. They get competitive in basketball, but there's just an added dynamic to that. And it's hard because you deal with other coaches and umpires and parents that are screaming stuff from the other side that egg on everybody, that makes things challenging that you can't control. In basketball, if that's going on, it's usually over in an hour and you're out of there. Like it's done and you don't see those people much. In baseball, you kind of run into the same, the same thing sometimes. And I don't know. That's probably the most challenging thing.
You mean the annoying parents that call you and say, I have an issue with what
well, it's not even that. It's not so much the parents like internally.
Right.
You occasionally get that, but more times than not, I respect that because they're just looking out for the kid, right? They just want the best for the child. So that's not a big deal. But it's the outside stuff that really bothers me, where somebody screams obscenities at kids or at other, or other parents, and picks fights, and that's what we've seen a little bit in baseball at times. It's just like, why? What's driving this? Why are you doing this? So it's hard when you can't control that, to coach your kids, keep them focused, and just not listen to that stuff.
Well, what has been your greatest joy with working with youth sports?
Just the relationships with our family, like people become like family and basically are family to us now over the years. And it's like we just finished the 14U Falcons, and they were some of my express kids. They were my rec kids. They were like, I mean, I've known them for so long, and their families. And it was difficult to say goodbye to that, although several of them we still see, but it's just, the most rewarding thing is to watch them become something they weren't before and tap into potential that they never saw in themselves. And a lot of that's just encouraging and building confidence, and telling them not to quit, not to give up, and just lifelong memories.
Do you think that you'll go back, even though, okay, yes, that was the 14U and that's your
Yeah.
youngest son, but do you think that you'll go back and coach any of those younger teams with the Falcons, or do you mostly have parents that do that?
So we've got a lot of great coaches. Next year, what I'm going to do is just be an assistant on my youngest son's team, just help out there and kind of be able to then kind of go to some of the other games and just watch what's going on. And then I don't know. I mean, I want to, but it's going to take. It's just I got to see what happens, just in terms of time, energy, and focus on, because the basketball keeps going, baseball keeps going. Make sure I can manage all that stuff. So we'll see. But probably yes. The answer is probably yes. But we'll see.
Will you ever teach high school or coach high school sports?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I don't. Who knows? I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but that takes a lot more time because it would take away from job, and so I really like my job. Yes, it takes care of my family, so I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I probably, like, for instance, the politics stuff. While I've enjoyed it. Lately, I haven't enjoyed it. I don't like the temperature in our nation right now. I'm not going to get into all that, but other to say is it's when it's not enjoyable, it's then
I
it's
don't know what this means, but somebody is posting this.
oh, good grief. I used to work with him. Yeah, so yeah.
That is,
he would always call me Van Gundy as a basketball coach.
that's awesome. Yeah, I just think that, like, in my mind, you've coached so much, and I have to admit, we have a lot of friends that are connected, and a lot of them have said that they absolutely love your coaching and really just appreciate you. And so it's like, okay, how can we channel that and take that on to the older generations? You know what I mean? And so that's just me kind of thinking, ooh, is that something that you would even consider doing? So
I mean, it would definitely have to be a shift in my life. I mean, it'd be something that would change. So I can't predict that. I've never been approached that way. But I want to, if anything, instill in some of these older guys to start coaching younger guys, like, for them,
mhm.
because there are some that you can spot right away that would be good coaches,
Oh,
and for them to start coaching and learn how to do that and kind of pass that on as well. So sometimes I'll give the older kids, I'll give them the board at a timeout and for them to draw up or play. And I think they actually learn it better when they have to teach it than listening to me bark at them or whatever. They actually have to remember the play and teach them and remind everybody the play as we're getting ready to go out there in a critical situation in the game. So yeah, I don't know. I would love, I'd love to coach at any level. I enjoy it. So yeah,
yeah.
who knows?
Have you liked having Colin Hartman as part of
Yeah,
Hoops?
he's become a good friend. He had to move away for a little bit because of the job situation. He was out of town. Now he's back. Um, and he does a great job. I mean, I sit back, I love to coach, but when I have him do the training or he's coaching or whatever, I sit back and watch and just really, I think he does a great job with kids, and he's teaching them some really solid fundamentals, and he's bringing stuff that he was taught at IU and at Cathedral, what it is to be a ball player,
Yeah.
and he's doing a great job. And I guess one or two of the guys, when he moved away for a little bit, they were sending him unsolicited text videos of them working on their shot
No.
and getting better from the things that he was teaching them before, and they
Awesome.
would send those. Yeah. So, and he was telling me about that, and I that's what I said. I said, look, it's rewarding. It is a rewarding thing when they've developed that bond with you now, where they're plugged in and they're listening to you and they're responding, and it's great.
When the twins trained with him, they loved having him train. They just really enjoyed. He's a light, and I like that. And there are different types of coaches. I have to admit,
Yeah, there are, and
and
sometimes a kid needs a different type of coach. I mean,
yes,
there are some.
yeah,
There's one that I coach right now. He tells me I don't scream at him enough, and I'm just not a huge scream. Like when they're on the sideline, I'm not a huge screamer. I mean, I'll get upset occasionally, but rarely. But he's like, you need to yell at me. He's like on me about
there,
not yelling at him enough. So
there is that.
there are just different kids are different, and
Yeah,
they need.
different stages too, because I think
Yeah.
for our oldest with Austin, at one point he had a coach that was really tough on him and kind of mean, but like in that stage,
Mm-hmm.
Austin needed that because then when he got the other coach, like he just developed better, right? And so it's interesting to see that dynamic. Not that I would maybe want that all the time or want another coach all the time. Like I think that
Right.
having the variety, is good. So
Yep.
um I had a question in my head and it just went bye-bye.
That's all right.
I can't remember what it was.
That happens to me
I
far too often.
darn it. Are there plans? This is a question from a mother who had a son in Hickory Hoops. Is there a plans to change locations?
Oh, yeah. So we get that occasionally. Yeah. So we will have opportunities this next session for either Finch Creek
Okay.
or Best Choice Fieldhouse. So we will still have teams at Best Choice.
Okay.
It's convenient for a lot of families. And then I know there are some that would prefer not. What's interesting, and if you talk about challenges of growing something, you'll get people that say, well, I don't want to be at a particular place.
Right.
But the place that they're going to, then you hear people say, I don't want to be at that
Oh yeah,
place.
absolutely.
So, and it's like, okay, well, there's only a few options here. There's not 17 different options.
Right.
So yeah, it's based on experiences, though. There are things that, we continue to talk with the operators about, like, hey, we need to shore this up. The stuff needs to be fixed here, that. And so us as owners of different programs are saying this, hey, like Matt Webster and I will say, hey, this is stuff that needs to be addressed.
Right.
We get on the same page, so that, because his program for him is vital. Like that's the lifeblood, and that's their paycheck at Indy Hoops. I mean, that's a full-time thing. Yeah, that's a full-time thing, and it's so obviously it's really important that he continues to succeed. But it's important for all of us to succeed, because that creates a good balance and a good opportunity for families to find what their particular kid needs, and it grows that way. So yes, the short answer is yes. But we won't be moving everything at all. I mean,
Thanks for answering my question. It wasn't really my question, it's my kids' questions.
Oh, the kids.
That's their question they wanted to ask.
Well, they're entitled to ask questions. Yes.
I'll ask. I don't know what Todd will say, but I'll ask.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and kind of talking with us and talking about the different programs. And, if somebody wants to get involved in Hickory Hoops or Fishers Falcons, how can anybody support Todd, and how can then they also support or get involved with Hickory Hoops or Fishers Falcons?
Yeah. Well, don't worry about supporting me. The thing, don't worry about any of that stuff. I try to keep that political stuff out separate. Honestly, it's the least of my, be just straight honest, it's the least of my priorities in life.
Right.
My priority is to serve. My priority is not to be political.
Yeah.
And so that's, yeah. So, but with hickoryhoops.net, it's live. You can go to that website, and there's a link on there for registration for the next session. And there's also a link. If you go to training, there's a link to sign up for Colin Hartman's training.
Okay.
The money you spend for Colin Hartman's training goes to the expenses of it, including to pay him to be able to give his time to do this. So that's where the money for the training goes. The money for the registration for us is the fees to enter your kid into Best Choice Fieldhouse right now, or Finch Creek, depending on which direction that goes for those particular teams. And then Fishers Falcons, we'll be putting out a website soon. It'll be fishersfalcons.com. That's getting built right now. But you can get a hold of me on email at, even if you could do like Todd at hickoryhoops.net. That's an email address you can use to get a hold, and then you can ask questions even about the Falcons if you want. I mean, whatever. It's the Hickory basketball is more of a constant questions because it's always going. Baseball is now, it's kind of quiet because there are already tryouts, teams are formed. So you really aren't going to get a lot of questions about baseball here on out, for a while. But with Hickory, that is a constant questions that come in. But I again emphasize, if you're just getting involved, get involved in rec. I really believe in it. The only reason we're not in it is just because our kids have grown out of it, and that's they're at a different stage of what they're wanting. But
right.
That's we've worked so many years from my senior in high school right now. He started baseball like 5 or 6 years old or something through that program. So we've been through it for years and years and years. Great people. I would encourage you to start that, and then if you're brand new to it, and if they like basketball, great, have them sign up. Kind of get more information from me about Hickory, and I'll be glad to help them out with that.
Okay. Well, that helps. We always ask one last question from all of our guests, which is, and I have to get my pen and paper because I try to write it down. Who do you think we should interview next? Typically, I do ask for like businesses or even philanthropic people or non-for-profits or whatever, somebody that you think that would be a good interview or that you feel like maybe hasn't been recognized within the town. I would say town forever. City of
That's okay. Say town. It's okay. Have you talked with YMI Youth Mentoring? Have you had anybody from there?
Somebody had mentioned, and I think I'm getting connected with him or with them.
Yeah, check with them, or also youth assistance programs. There's two.
Larry and Larry Lannon.
So Larry Lannon probably did. He probably did interview or something with that. Yeah. But those are programs that really continually need to be highlighted. Okay. I was with YMI for several years. My schedules prohibited me from doing a lot of that, but they're tremendous programs for kids that are, mentoring, need an extra set of ears to listen to, have somebody to listen to them. So those are directions I would go. Okay. And then there's a gentleman, and maybe somebody that's watching can say his name. There's a gentleman that rides we gave him special permission in the city for his golf cart. And he drives around, older gentleman drives around and picks up trash.
What?
For free. He just does it out of his own heart. And he rides a golf cart around Fishers, and I can't remember his name. And I don't know if anybody that watches this can remember his name, or a way to get a hold of him. That would be a wonderful interview, just because. And I don't know him. Like, I don't.
Yes.
But I think it would be something that'd be really like where he came up with this idea.
Yeah.
Great to give back to the community. So.
Okay. Do you have, I know Larry, he was either going to email or message to help me get connected with YMI. Do you know someone, or are you able to connect me?
Yes. So I'll get you contact information.
That would be great.
Allison would be great to interview.
Back, I don't think. I still think he's visiting his family, so I haven't heard from him, which is fine. He's quote retired.
Yes.
which I think is
He's
hilarious.
trying to retire.
He's not doing a very good job because he keeps posting on stuff. But so I'd love to get that connection. And then if anybody knows of this, can I say old man? I feel bad saying.
I mean, I don't know how old he is. He's an older gentleman that is out there on a golf cart, helping the community, and it's really cool. And I'll remember once we log off this. I'll remember his name. I just don't remember right now.
That's a great idea. I love that. Well, Todd, I really appreciate it. For anybody that is interested, Hickory Hoops really is a good program. I have really, our boys really enjoyed it. We'll probably get back into it because we're just trying to get back into everything, essentially. But we really appreciate you coming on. I am thankful for not talking politics. And just
thank you for not any political questions. I appreciate it.
Here's the thing, I'd ask you questions, but then it's a rabbit hole. So I just think that, we need some positivity, and let's talk about sports because sports is a positive thing and our kids need it. So.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. You guys have a good evening. Next week, as a reminder, it's Kurt Tappendorf, who owns Schoolhouse 7 Cafe. That's who's our guest next week. It is going to be on Wednesday. We needed to move it for a day because he also has stuff going on with his kids. So don't forget to tune in next week on Wednesday at 7:30. Thank you so much, Todd, and you have a wonderful night, and we will see you later.
See ya. Take care.
Todd. Bye. Bye.